Let's talk about Starfield. When the game released, I was hyped. A lot of people were, but probably for different reasons. I spent launch day and a few days after reverse engineering the game and porting over gameplay hooks from Skyrim Together to a potential Starfield Together mod. I ported about 70% of Skyrim Together reverse code to Starfield Together. There was just one problem. This game is fucking trash. I didn't realize it until after I actually started playing the damn game a week after launch. The game is boring, bland, and the main draw of Bethesda games, exploration in a lively handcrafted world, was completely gone. Anyways, everyone already knows this. Most people agree. There's no need to further repeat the point, just read any of the dozen reviews online. That said, I won't be continuing development of Starfield Together. I'm not going to put my heart and soul into a mod for a game that's as mediocre as this. Wow. Starfield, I actually saw there was like a video about this recently, about Bethesda responding to criticism for Starfield.
So it's been interesting to see how the reception of Starfield has been like over the course of its post-launch period. On Metacritic right now, it's sitting at an 83 from 90 critics, which is definitely not a...
I don't know how the fuck people gave it, bro, an 83? An 83, that's a big number, man.
Among the highest rated Bethesda
that's so
games,
high.
like not horrible, but you know, people were definitely, I think, hoping for higher, and then user score is sort of, you know, good to mixed at a 7.0 out of 10 from over 11,000 user ratings.
I think that's still too high, man. I do.
But looking at Steam, the situation is a little more interesting as Starfield over time has lowered its user review score from like positive to now a mixed score of 69%. Nice, from 81,000 user reviews. The recent scores have been closer to 58%. And the general feedback has been a lot of kind of the issues that I had with the game, which is that while there's some cool like side quest content here and there, some good storylines, gunplay also generally feels pretty good in this game, and I think the shipbuilding...
Well, the gunplay, the only good thing about Starfield is the shipbuilding. That's the only good thing about the game. There are a lot of other things about the game that are not bad, but the shipbuilding was cool.
Aspect is something that's been really well done with just how customizable ships are, and some of the creations we've seen have been really cool. I was disappointed by the main quest. I was disappointed by how fetch questy it all was and how repetitive it was. And then the
I tried to do the main quest, man. I really did. I tried 3 separate days. I really put my heart and soul into trying to enjoy it, and I just couldn't do it. I feel like if you... like, have somebody play it's like, I'm having trouble sleeping. Just make an ASMR of the Starfield main story quest line. That'll work better than anything else. It wasn't made to be enjoyed. Yeah.
Exploration, I think, is the biggest qualm that people have with the space element of the game being the thing that gets in the way, because space is just so much empty space that a lot of stuff is now segmented and separated across all these different planets, and so there's no cohesion anymore. It's not just one giant open world that feels like handcrafted, but rather a lot of little things separated across the galaxy, and the planets themselves aren't all that interesting to explore.
Yeah, sure.
Even the more handcrafted planets feel like just lesser open worlds compared to one cohesive open world like, you know, Skyrim and stuff like that. And then beyond that...
Well, there weren't really hardly any handcrafted planets. Like, I went to probably 50 or 70 different planets in Starfield, and every single one of them was trash. They were all bad. It's not like there's 1 or 2 that were good. No, they were all bad.
I think just generally the age of the creation engine is starting to show, and while Starfield does use it...
has nothing to do with the engine. Like, the engine problems... Like, if Starfield never had any loading screens, it would still be a bad game. Like, I need people to understand that. Like, the engine, yes, it made it worse, and it made that aspect of the game worse, but it's not like, oh, the engine's holding the game back. No, the game is bad. And the engine is also bad.
advanced version of the creation engine, the foundation of it is still the creation engine. And so the presentation, the AI issues, the animations, and the uncanny valley of NPCs, like there's just a lot here that feels like it hasn't caught up to more modern RPGs and what they've been able to accomplish.
Yeah,
While
of course
Bethesda
not.
games have always been, kind of janky and whatnot, they've always had this fun factor, this sense of wonder of just being able to kind of like go anywhere and always find some curiosity. And with Starfield and how much just loading screens there are, how much stuff is accessed through menus, which are also clumsily implemented, Starfield, I think, loses the one thing that Bethesda games could ride on despite all of the janky elements. And so all the other stuff, all the other flaws just stand out that much more in Starfield. And that's, I think, why we're...
I don't understand. Like, I remember whenever I was making videos about Starfield, whenever it came out, I had so many Xbox fanboys in my replies mauling. Like, they were fighting me, and they were, like, getting angry. They were like, you can't fucking say this. You're a fucking Sony pony. You're a fucking... You're being paid by PlayStation to say that our game is bad. How are you can't say our game is bad? Xbox is the best. Like, it's just... And I look at their profiles, and these are, like, 35-year-old men. Like, how... Like, you're 27 years old. What the fuck are you doing?
Such a generally mixed score, and compare that to, say, Skyrim, which is sitting at an overwhelmingly positive score of 95%. Sure. Even Fallout 4 is sitting at a positive review score of 83%. It's a pretty stark difference. I think there's a general sense that Starfield might be Bethesda's weakest single-player entry, with many calling it the epitome of wide as an ocean, but shallow as a puddle. Even looking at player numbers, while it's natural for a single-player game to eventually dip in player numbers once people are finished with it, it's worth noting that Starfield currently has a 24-hour peak of 18,000 players, which is less than Skyrim's 24-hour peak of 23.
Okay, that does matter, though, right? I mean, the fact that, like, Skyrim is still beating Starfield. Starfield came out this year. Skyrim came out 10 years ago. I mean, that's pretty fucking bad.
1,000 players, and not too far off from Fallout 4's 24-hour peak of almost 15,000 players. Now, I think that's in part because Fallout 4 and Skyrim
maybe they'll have to re-release Starfield in 7 different ways, and then maybe they'll have enough people playing.
Have modding tools that are officially available, so mods play a big part of that. I think when modding tools for Starfield come out, we might see those numbers rise up again.
I don't think so.
But I think there's a general sense that Starfield is drawing a lot less buzz and a lot less interest, and it's just a game that's a lot less interesting to players compared to past Bethesda releases, and we'll see if that will change.
Yeah, there's nothing interesting about Starfield. Like, I genuinely think that there is nothing that is interesting about the game.
Expansions and with mod support. Now, while we wait to see what happens on that front, something that's caught a lot of people's attention
there's no maps.
is the fact that Bethesda has been responding to negative reviews on Steam.
What?
So if we go to Starfield reviews right now and look at the list here, you can see that some of the negative reviews
A developer has responded
to this
What?
review. Notice that you can click on and you can find what the developer said. And it's not just 1 or 2 reviews.
Bro, they're getting down in the trenches.
It's quite a number of them. Here's 1, 2, 3,
Jesus.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
This is
10,
like Todd gets on the company account. He's like, you don't know anything.
10, 11, 12, 13, 14,
Jesus.
15, just in this one page alone. But I've kind of compiled a couple of those developer comments and responses to those negative reviews to see what they had to say.
Yeah.
And I, for one, have no issue with developers trying to communicate with players, but I think there's also a way to do it where it does feel sincere and it doesn't feel like you're trying to tell people you're wrong about feeling the way you do about the game.
I don't care. I love it when developers communicate, even whenever they're stupid. Because if they're stupid, then you learn more.
And that's why the way
Bethesda
I'm fine. Responded here, it just feels kind of hollow, and it's just not something that's being seen as a positive development. So, for example, here we have a review who did not recommend the game. I mean, 256.1 hours on record.
Matt, I'm going to be real, all right? You spend 256 hours on record, and at 183 hours, you say, "Don't you play this." Hey. Don't you, don't do what I did. I'm gonna keep doing it though, but like, don't you do what I did.
I've played this game quite a bit, 183.2 hours played at review time, and complain about many of the things that a lot of people complained about. And looking at the developer response here, they try to justify some of the things that the user complained about. One of the things that they recommend when it comes to like the game just feels kind of boring is to try creating different characters with backgrounds and characteristics that clash or opposite of your previous character. You'll feel like you're playing a totally different game.
How do they do it, man? How the fuck did they do it? Like, you understand what the special like things are? Like, if you have a special perk, it's just an extra dialogue option where it's like if you were a soldier and you respond to the NPC, you know, there's like the dialogue for soldier, it's like, yeah, I used to be on the battlefield too. And then the NPC is like, yeah, that's what it's like whenever you're in the army. Anyways, let's go back to this. Back to the story. That's it. That's literally the entire thing.
Degree, but one of the things that people complain about with Starfield is that a lot of the choices you make, especially when it comes to dialogue, just doesn't really seem to affect the outcome of events all that much. There are a handful of key decisions.
Not that much. It doesn't affect the outcome at all.
Here that do impact who lives and who dies here and there, but generally it doesn't feel like your choices have that much of an influence on the way things play out and, you know, what ending you get and all these things. But Bethesda here insists that when it comes to Starfield, you'll be faced with completely different decisions to make and difficulties to encounter when you make new characters and try new things. There are so many different layers to Starfield that you'll find things you never knew were possible after playing for hundreds of hours. And while it's true that you will...
I feel like whenever a developer like this talks about what they think, it actually makes it really easy to understand why the game has problems. Because you look at what they're saying and it's like, oh, wait, now I understand.
We'll find new things with the way New Game Plus works in this game after hundreds of hours.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just the process of doing New Game Plus and the process of kind of exploring the content of Starfield is there's just enough sort of roadblocks and friction between you and getting to the interesting content that I feel like looking for all that new content through all the New Game Pluses and whatnot, it's just not something that a lot of people are going to stick with, or even if they do, they'll find the experience just not as good as it could have been. And based on the fact that almost...
Look, I don't know why people keep talking around this. It's just not that good. I mean, this isn't a crime against humanity. A developer just released a video game that wasn't that great. What's the noise? They do this like every month, and they'll just get out and they'll just start playing drums. It'll go on for like 30 more minutes and then they'll stop. It is what it is.
9,000 people found this review helpful. It seemed as though there are plenty of people who agree with a lot of the negative sentiments expressed here, you know. And then right here we have another user review with negative sentiments with over 6,000 people who found this review.
Dude, this is problematic. 100 hours on record, 91 hours on record. Like, and again, you know what's really fucked up about this is that I'm one of these people. It's like I'm sitting there eating shit, level 200 in Starfield. Oh, God, you don't want any of this. Oh, it's just fucking awful.
Full. Now, scrolling down the developer response here, you'll find is basically kind of copied and pasted from what they said in the previous review, where they talk about how you should try creating different characters with backgrounds and characteristics that clash or are opposite of your previous character.
You can fly, you can shoot, you can mine, you can loot. You can't really fly. Shooting in the game actually doesn't really work that well. And mining, you don't really mine anything. You just use a laser beam and then it goes away. That's it. Like, what is this? You can with boost assault pack? Oh, if you fly? But you can't really fly though, right? Like, I have my boost pack leveled all the way up. It doesn't matter.
and you'll find it to be a totally different game, which again, I don't think is entirely true. Sure, the gameplay style might change a little bit. You could go for something that's stealthy or something that's more gunplay heavy and whatnot, but generally it feels like the outcome of events will be relatively the same, save for a few key moments.
Yeah, 100%. Somebody says you didn't see most of the game. You can't access the unique zones and boss fights through exploration. All right. Wait.
There's something I'd like to discuss.
Wait. Wait, did it... This it? Is this what I missed out on? I missed out on this. I didn't get a chance to play this. Oh wait, it's over? Oh wait, is this the boss? So let's go ahead and let's look at something, okay? So that's the last boss. This is the first boss.
Open fire!
That's it. That's the game. It doesn't, guys, it's not a boss fight just because, what do you call it? It's not a boss fight just because the mob has a special name. There's nothing about that that's a boss fight at all. I'll be right back.
Rather than this being something that'll be consistent.
I had to reload, so.
Like, say, Baldur's Gate 3, where, you know, every quest and every decision seems to, like, come back at some point, and there seems to be ramifications to your choices at every turn. That sense just isn't anywhere near as prominent in Starfield. Next up, we have a negative review here with over 4,600 people finding it useful, and one of the key complaints here is about exploration and the way there are so many loading screens and how much you have to access the menu to really traverse space, and
loading
just
screens
the
in
lack
this game
of
is
seamlessness
awful.
in the experience. Well, the Bethesda representative here responding by saying that the option to
fly freely among planets is still there, and you can travel from one planet to another and land without needing to open your map if you use your scanner. No, it's not. That's not even true. Like, holy crap, yeah, it's you can? No, remember that Alana Pierce flew to Pluto. Remember? And then Pluto was fucking, it was like just a cosmetic planet. It was a JPEG. She flew to a JPEG.
Fly freely among planets is still there, which just isn't true. Like, yes, you can bring up the scanner and you can travel from one planet to another and land without needing to open your map, but that's as long as the planet is visible within the area and space that you're in. And even then, you're not really freely flying to planets. You're just kind of activating a loading screen that leads you into the planet, and that's done in such
it's just a load screen,
way where it breaks the illusion that you're genuinely exploring space, whereas in something like No Man's Sky, because you can hop in and out of planets and fly your ship around anywhere truly freely, you know, that is a much more immersive feeling sense of space exploration. In fact, it's already been proven that if you do just try to fly to a planet, you'll essentially just phase through a JPEG. There's no actual planet there to
it's been
take
proven.
your ship towards in a seamless fashion. When it comes to fast travel, Bethesda justified it as, remember that fast travel also has its perks, as you can do so quickly when trying to complete quests, and will always be given visual of your ship launching and landing, thus being able to appreciate all the little details that make your customized ship look unique. There are only so many times you can watch that ship landing or ship leaving animation before you kind of grow tired of it. And
you're right. The amount of times that I can watch it without growing tired of it, 2 times. I'm landing and then I'm taking off. Oh, cool. So, okay. So can we skip this from now on? No? Okay.
Ultimately just prefer if you could fly in and out of planets seamlessly. And yes, the inclusion of fast travel is not a bad thing because you can quickly travel to locations and whatnot, which is important for a game that's so massive. Previous Bethesda games have had fast travel, but the over-reliance on fast travel in Starfield is what really brings it down. Whereas in past Bethesda games, you'd have to like actually explore and see what's out there and find locations before you could fast travel to them. And so there was this constant sense of like actually having to like be aware of the space around you. And
you had to like explore it before you went to it. Yeah,
discovery. Whereas in Starfield,
that's the way a lot of games are.
Like you're just skipping all this empty space.
Yeah,
that doesn't really have much to offer. It's just not worth like taking your ship and just like flying somewhere in a direction, because the odds are you'll probably not find anything. Even in planets, the odds are that as you walk around, you'll find the same outposts that you've seen, procedurally generated before.
It's all the same. And then even the NPCs that you fight, there are some of them that are called the Eclipsion and other ones that are called Spacers. The difference between them is that one's called Eclipsion and the other one's called Spacer. That's the only difference. Fundamentally, they're the same NPCs in the same suits, doing the same things with the same voice lines that drop the same loot. And you're right. I think the Eclipsions have, there's like red on their shoulder. It's not the exact same. They're red.
The more handcrafted planets, even if you go outside of the main city.
The Crimson, the Crimson. The Crimson's really the red one. There. Yeah.
Bethesda here also tries to justify the economy in this game and just the lackluster loot, saying that in terms of game economy, remember that the higher the difficulty you're playing on, the better items you'll receive as a drop. Enemies will be dropping more rare weapons and gear. You'll also be given the option to board and steal more expensive and valuable ships, saying, well, just increase your difficulty to get better rewards. But even generally the best rewards in Starfield even are not all that impressive, because of a lack of just general weapon and loot variety. There's no there are very few in the way of like legendary weapons or whatever that feel really unique. And
I don't know, like I have a fucking weapon, like the weapon that I ended the game with was a weapon that I could literally one-shot a level 99 elite. If I got a critical strike, I could one-shot them. It was a sniper rifle. It did, like, I think 5,000 to 6,000 damage on critical strike. I had it completely maxed out, everything. I was trying to get one that had a special perk on it, and then I realized that the game was bad, and I quit.
Just a lot of weapons in general, given its sci-fi setting, are underwhelming. Even Fallout, I think, just had more unique weapons. Whereas Starfield,
just good at the game,
very like vanilla and generic, and a lot of the stuff you get that are higher level weapons, it's just, a weapon that you've already seen before with higher stats or with certain specific mods, but nothing really crazy that makes you feel the sense of, oh my god, this is so cool what I just looted here. Here's another.
I got a couple of cool weapons. Like, they're all right, but like the Needler from Halo was cooler than all of them. The energy sword from Halo was cooler than all of them. The fuel rod cannon from Halo was cooler than all of them. And that's just the way it is.
A review with over 4,600 people that found this review helpful. The developer here talks about the excess of loading screens in between fast traveling, saying just consider the amount of data for the expansive gameplay that is procedurally generated to load flawlessly in under 3 seconds.
While there might be loading screens in between fast traveling, just appreciate that it's procedurally generated to load flawlessly in under 3 seconds. Yeah, I probably load it flawlessly in under 3 seconds because I have a fucking perfect computer. I guarantee you it's going to be more than 3 seconds. And also, 3 seconds every 10 seconds is a lot of seconds.
We believe that shortcoming will not hinder our players from getting lost in the world we created. So I guess this is more of like a technical explanation for why there's so many loading screens, and I'm not saying that there isn't a technical reason for why.
I don't give a fuck about the technical reason. Like, if PAX Day can do a better job and it's a fucking, like, a early access alpha game, if No Man's Sky can do it, like, what are we doing here? If Spider-Man can do it better, like, it's like all these other games can do it. Cyberpunk can do it. Like, why is every other game able to do it? If it's, how is this possible? I don't know. Ask anybody. They'll tell you. Look at Elden Ring.
The game was designed the way it was, but it doesn't change the fact that the excess of loading screens does negatively impact the gameplay experience.
Absolutely.
It doesn't necessarily hinder the player, but it does make the immersiveness of the game feel far more diminished compared to what past Bethesda games accomplished. For such a vast galaxy, you know, for this being the Bethesda's biggest game volume-wise, it weirdly feels like the smallest because everything is so separated into their own hubs, with space itself just kind of being a hub rather than like a seamless part of the experience. It's the place you go to go to your map and select a destination, basically. The illusion of this just being one seamless tapestry just isn't there as a result of the fragmented nature of this experience that is a result.
I don't know why so many people talk about the immersion aspect of it, because I think that, like, really, if there were no loading screens in Starfield would still suck. Loading screens didn't kill the game. It had really nothing to do with it. It was like, yeah, it was bad that it had loading screens. Like, yeah, it made it worse. But, like, that's not really it's still an issue? Yeah, it's still an issue. But it's really not the... It's like a minor fucking footnote.
Result of just how excessive the loading screens are that reveal just how segmented this game is. Like, there's no illusion here that is properly evoked about the sense of being a space explorer. Now, here's one particular response to a review that has especially raised eyebrows. So this is somebody with a review who...
100 hours onto this game. Oh my god.
Over 4,400 people found helpful. Scrolling down here, they insist that the way Starfield is designed and the way planets are so empty is not actually boring. It reads right here, "We're sorry that you do not like landing on different planets and are finding many of them empty. Some of Starfield..."
Do you remember whenever I went to that solar system and I went to every single planet in the entire solar system and there was nothing on the entire planet except for rocks, and then there was one point of interest and I identified the point of interest and it was a cave, and I went to the cave and inside of the cave there were rocks? Do you remember that? Oh, they're minerals. Excuse me.
Planets are meant to be empty by design, but that's not boring, Bethesda declares here. And then this is a quote: "When the astronauts went to the moon, there was nothing there. They certainly weren't bored." Look, don't get me wrong. If I were to go to the moon, I would be just awestruck.
Nah, bro. Like, I bet the moon would be fucking boring. Like, what are we talking about how the moon would be lit? This shit would be boring as fuck, man. Like, you're sitting there, okay, you can jump around. Like, would it be fun? It'd be fun. It'd be interesting for, like, probably... Like, it'd be cool to go there for, like, an afternoon. Right? You, like, take some pictures, take some selfies, you know, jump around a bit, throw rocks at each other, you know, like, maybe look around, try and find the flag that we put there. And it's like, okay, all right, I gotta go back home now because there's nothing to fucking do. There's no internet on the moon. There's no Walmart at the moon. There's no McDonald's, no Chipotle at the moon. Like, what the fuck? There's no power at the moon. Like, it's probably annoying. Like, you want to go outside, you have to put on a whole suit of shit. Like, what the fuck is this? It's crazy. Yeah, I don't get this at all. I go to, yeah, what is this? As a video game, you're not going to go to the moon on your couch eating Doritos. Yeah. It's boring as fuck. This is a thrill. You can die at any second if something went wrong. But, like, you couldn't really. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you could. Like, I mean, it's just... But you can't really die. And if you die, you just respawn in the game. Like, the moon it would not be lit, okay? All I'm saying is that going to the moon would not be as lit as you think it would. That's my point.
By the majesty of being in space and being in a completely new landmass in space and stuff. But if somebody told me, let's just walk around the moon all day and...
Well, why do you think they stopped going over there? When was the last time we ever went to the fucking moon? Never. Because it's fucking boring. What the hell are we going to go over there for? It's expensive? Well, yeah, but if there was some crazy shit there, we'd probably go. It's like, at least with Mars, it's like, oh, maybe there's water. Maybe there's other shit over there. But, like, the moon...
found throughout that expedition was just empty space. As cool as it is to be on the moon, I'd eventually get bored of that. Like, the thing that Starfield is supposed to offer is that when you do land on the moon, there's all this stuff to do on that planet, or just there's enough content there to keep you preoccupied. But it just doesn't do enough, and it just stretches itself too thin by having 1,000 planets you can land on or whatever, with the vast majority of them being so empty or having such copied and pasted procedurally generated.
I mean, I played the game. Like, if you played the game, you know what it is. Like, we're not playing around with this. Like, it's fucking boring. Like, everybody knows it. Like, what is this?
Content that they're not really worth exploring. Like, doing the same activity over and over again in a video game is just not fun, and trying to make a game ultra realistic
the activity isn't fun.
Can be at times to your detriment, because realism sometimes is not fun, so you gotta like heighten that stuff through the unique elements of gameplay you can bring to the table with a kind of game.
Anytime that a developer tries to go for realism, I always get worried, because real life is boring. Like, I don't want to play real life. That's why I'm playing the game.
That you're making. Bethesda's justification continues. The intention of Starfield's exploration is to evoke a feeling of smallness in players and make you feel overwhelmed.
Should be fun.
You can continue to explore and find worlds that do have resources you need or hidden outposts to look through. But Starfield's planets, I don't feel like they overwhelm you with a sense of, oh my god, there's so much to do.
There's so many rocks.
You eventually start to realize, oh, this is content not even worth exploring, so you start skipping exploring planets and just kind of want to do quests, which are the most interesting aspect of Starfield's content, in my opinion. And because there's a lack of vehicles in this game, walking around planets is genuinely painful because it takes so long to reach a point of interest.
And you use stamina while you're out of combat, so you can't even run. You have to, like, run, and then you get tired, and you're like... and then you gotta run again, like, oh my god.
So much of planetary exploration is literally just walking around and using your boost pack to try to expedite the process a little bit, but it doesn't really help that much.
It's just
and
stamina.
just looking at just very monotonous looking landscapes as you try to reach your next destination, which is a couple minutes away or whatever. Like, the visual experience of looking at the procedurally generated environments from all these different planets, that's not awe-inspiring enough for that alone to be able to carry exploration of planets. You know, the activities have to be compelling and purposeful and meaningful, and that's just not the case more often than not. And when the same criticism is brought up by other reviews like this one right here with over 4,000,
a major step back,
useful, you'll see that Bethesda has kind of...
Some of Starfield's plants are meant to be empty. Quests are made to be completed in several ways. If you're looking to feel OP, we recommend looking at completing a quest that grants special powers. Oh my god. Oh god. They certainly, when the astronauts went to the moon, the intention of Starfield's exploration is to invoke a feeling of smallness in the players. Well, they did. I feel like the game is very small. Yeah, I mean, that's the first thing they said I agree with. Damn.
Copied and pasted this response. Some of Starfield's planets are meant to be empty by design, but that's not boring, it declares. The same code, it's literally just a copied and pasted thing. Which, yes, copying and pasting helps save time, but it just... This feels like a very, like, marketing kind of response rather than somebody genuinely engaging with this player's specific feedback. For me, this experience was very boring, and them saying, but that's not boring, and bringing up this quote about real-life astronauts, like, that's not gonna change my mind or change many people's minds about this. It's also worth noting that going to the moon in real life is a real-life experience that can be life-changing, whereas Starfield is ultimately still a video game. You know what I mean? Like, going to another planet, a video game has been done before.
Deal.
It's not this magical thing. Next up, we have a response to this user review with over 3,700 people finding it helpful.
Jesus, I can't believe they got in the trenches like this. At harder difficulties, AI are nothing but stupid bullet sponges. Bad AI. Yeah, that's true. 100%. Yep.
Scrolling down here, there is justification for aspects of the game's visuals and the clunky UI, stating that Starfield's art direction and overall UI aesthetic is meant to be cohesive and have a NASA punk look. Menus are clean, bold, and neatly organized.
NASA punk look? Clean, neatly organized, the focal point on the player's character. I feel like at a certain point, you can just be so off base that it's not even worth giving feedback. It's like, this is just so wrong that I don't even want to take the time to explain why it's wrong. Like, it's just like, understood. Have a nice day.
Organized. I would highly disagree with that. Menus are a bit of a mess in this game and are some of the clunkiest menus I've used. And especially like, inventory management is a pain in the ass because it offers so little information and everything's organized in such a rudimentary way that it makes it hard to actually like go through your inventory.
Naturally.
It just needed greater features, more enhancements that mods now already offer. And it feels like Bethesda hasn't learned from past entries' clunky UI. And even from mods who've already like fixed this issue. I mean, look, I like the NASA punk aesthetic personally, but the UI itself was something that I really wasn't a fan of. But yeah, Bethesda insists here that menus are clean, bold.
It sucked dick. Why don't you have a menu? Why don't you have a map for the cities? Why not? Where's the map? It's really that simple, right? I mean, like, is it? And yeah, that's literally it. UI was horrible. Yeah, it's just the thing is, I forgot what the problems were with the UI. I remember that the UI sucked, but I don't actually remember why it sucked.
And neatly organized with a focal point on the player's character. The skill menu is colorful and iconic, while the inventory shows off items, weapons, and armor in a visually striking way. These UI design choices increase your immersion into the Starfield universe. See, this just feels like Bethesda saying, you're wrong. Let me tell you what
why
actually
you're wrong.
is. This is not, a shit cake. It's actually chocolate cake, which, that's not the kind of feedback that's going to be well received.
I love how people are using this. I love it. I think this is probably one of the best, like, metaphor things I've ever come up with. Is that people are trying to eat shit and convince everybody else that it's chocolate. Yep.
Provide any kind of insight. This just feels like a marketing statement
it's a shit cake
that you decided to throw out there in the hopes of changing people's minds, but you just stating things that people don't feel is accurate is not going to change their minds, or it's not going to change the reality of the flaws of the game. There's also an attempted justification at the fact that the carry weight in this game is so low that it can be disruptive. I mean, inventory management alone is already kind of a pain in the ass, but the fact that you have to do
I went through and I played the game with no mods. I played it with literally 0 mods because I wanted to have the real experience. I wanted to have the raw experience. And goddamn, that was a fucking mistake. Holy shit, that was messed up. Oh, fuck, bro. Like, oh my god, bro. It's so bad.
it so often because you're so frequently over encumbered just doesn't help matters. And they highlight here how you can purchase the weightlifting skill, but even that has its limit, and I don't feel like it was enough for me even maxing that out to really smooth out the over encumbrance issue. They highlight here how you can have your ship's cargo hold carry some stuff, but even the weight capacity of that is much lower than you think it is. And looking at more reviews, you can see that a lot of stuff is just straight up copied and pasted, the same kind of PR sounding statements. Here's one response from Bethesda that does show new text. This one's trying to justify the combat, saying that Starfield has some of the most advanced combat in a Bethesda title to this day.
That ain't saying a lot. That's really not saying a lot, guys. Like, I really, like, man.
It's one of our players' favorite aspects of the game. I will say that I generally have positive impressions about Starfield's combat.
What about any other game, though? What about, like, Cyberpunk or, like, any other game that's recently come out, like Doom? You even have, like, Halo, Call of Duty, Remnant. Where's some other ones that came out? Armored Core 6. I mean, like, any other game.
It has the most advanced combat in a Bethesda title
the day before.
To this
the day before's
you know,
worse.
that's not necessarily a high bar. Bethesda's combat has never been the best feeling. I think
it's trash. It's not the best feeling. It's fucking garbage. That's why I quit Oblivion. I quit Oblivion because the game played like shit. It just doesn't play well. Like, that's all there is to it. Like, the movement is trash. The combat sucks. And in Skyrim, it's the same thing. I saw my friend play Skyrim. The combat is garbage.
Starfield has made some strides on that front, and it is the best feeling.
And before you think, oh no, it's actually super good, play a good game. Go play Cyberpunk, and then come back and tell me that Skyrim or Oblivion is good. No, it's not. It's good for a Bethesda game.
Bethesda combat, but compared to other shooters, it still falls short in many regards, but it's still good enough for the type of experience that Starfield is. And then when it comes to criticisms about how the game's stealth systems don't feel fleshed out enough, it says that to experience some of Starfield's better stealth scenarios, we recommend you embark on the Ryujin faction quests. But the thing is, you can create a character who entirely relies on stealth, and it feels like the game really wasn't designed for that, or was designed in such a way where stealth feels very artificial, and you have to really jump through hoops to really make it work. And
it's dumb.
I kind of felt that way as someone who played a stealth build. The stealth in Bethesda games have always been a little rudimentary, and Starfield felt like an opportunity to just really evolve that aspect of Bethesda games. But it just feels like more of what we saw previously, and in some cases, because of AI inconsistency, stealth can at times feel worse than what it used to be. Here's one more review worth highlighting.
Like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know why people like these games so much. Like, I didn't really get it. Like, I don't see what they see in these games, because, like, whenever I see these games, I see garbage NPCs, boring stories, shitty combat, bad graphics. Like, that's it. Everything about it is bad. It's like, I don't get it. Like, maybe it's just like, I mean, I don't watch horror movies. Maybe it's like people like horror movies. I don't like horror movies. So, like, it's crazy. I don't get it. How is it possible? The music is nice. To be fair, the music is nice.
Where the Bethesda developer here or representative insists that companions can be valuable allies and assets. I had a lot of complaints, actually, about companions, because while they can carry your stuff, that's like one thing that can be used for, essentially, as a backpack of sorts, a walking backpack. The actual element of the companions being an asset when you're engaged in combat, for example, that I rarely found to be true, because companions often walk in front of you as you're shooting someone, or if you're a stealth build like me, they would often just run into combat and just disrupt your stealth plans. The companion AI is bad enough that I never, ever wanted to have a companion with me at any given point in time. And in general,
I think companions are... They also can carry you if you play it the right way.
Companions and characters in this game, I personally didn't find to be all that interesting, so I wasn't really emotionally invested in them enough to bring them along. But yeah, as far as unique responses go from this Bethesda representative who's responding to these negative reviews, those are the ones I could find, and the rest of the responses we're seeing to other negative reviews, it's basically some form of copied and pasted version of the unique statements that we have seen. It doesn't happen...
It's just like, you can't tell people that aren't happy with the game, like, no, actually, you don't understand why the UI is good. If everybody is saying the UI is bad, and then the most popular mod apparently is a mod for the UI, maybe, like, what you think is important with the UI, maybe it's not that important after all. I mean, I don't know what to say.
Very frequently that a developer will go out of its way to respond to all of these negative reviews on Steam, and whatnot. Usually they'll just like keep their heads down and try to work on fixing these issues. But Bethesda just trying to declare that things people have experienced is not actually the experience, when that's what a lot of people are saying. Like, it just comes across as bizarre, and generally people don't like to be told that the experience that they had with something that they thoroughly played is actually not the experience that they had. It just feels like it's brushing aside. It just feels like Bethesda saying we're right and you're wrong, rather than saying, okay, I'll take that into consideration and see, how we can fix things.
Well, they make the game however the fuck they want to make the game. But at the end of the day, if you look at the way the game plays, you look at what people said about it, that paints a very specific picture. That's it. You need to play 30 hours to feel the real experience. No, man, it starts getting good in New Game Plus. No, man. See, you have to get like your superpowers, and there's like a superpower that makes it to where like you can like jump really high, and then there's another one where you could run a long time, and you don't understand. It's Jesus. Man.
Future entries or future patches or updates and whatnot.
Oh.
So that's kind of the general discussion surrounding these Bethesda responses to Starfield negative reviews on Steam. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's everything you need to know about the situation. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Bethesda's responses to these Starfield negative reviews. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.
There it is. And so, call pushing permanence, putting power in your hands. Yeah, I mean, pandering Twitter on it was insane whenever this game dropped. Like, it's just what I like about Steam is you can find genuine criticism about games. Sometimes you need to filter them out. Well, yeah, I'm sure some people are very upset about that kind of stuff, but it starts getting good in the next spoonful of shit. Like you said yourself, just because you don't understand what I'm saying doesn't mean it's wrong. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's so funny that they're actually like trying to defend this shit. Like, I wish they had just listened to the player base. Just listen to what people say and change different things in the game. Like Starfield, actually, you know what? That's not really true. The truth is that Starfield has so many problems with it that I genuinely believe that it is an irredeemable game. Like, the DLC will not fix the game. Because, like, so... Here, I'm gonna make a list real quick, okay? Bad things about Starfield. NPCs, how they act, personality. How NPCs look, graphics, combat, gunplay, melee, planets being boring, story boring, loot boring, enemy, AI bad, no exploration, realistically, repeat NPCs, menus are bad, carry weight. Like, I mean, what is left? Let me link you guys the video. And that's the thing. Like, what's left, guys? It's like, yeah, the game's good except for everything. Space combat sucks? Yeah, true. Or is it? Like, every single thing about the game is bad. How is this possible? So why can't the DLC fix these things? Because there's too many things. They have to fix everything about the game. It's like you just make a new game at this point. Just start over. It would be a completely different game. They need to make a new game. Yes, it's just like Make a new cake. Yes, exactly. You missed the thousands of bugs? I don't care about the bugs. The bugs are funny. The bugs are better content than the story. Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah, I already put the story as boring. Okay, never mind. I already did that. Yes. Jesus, man. Bethesda doesn't make DLCs to their games? Yeah, the modders do. The loading screens? It's not even part of it. That's not even the issue. Like, the loading screens don't even matter. It's like building a house on wet concrete. Yes. It's like, okay, so let's say you have to make a cake, all right? And the ingredients that you have for the cake are a dead porcupine, car oil, and nails. Can you make a good cake with that? No. No, you can't. It's just a piece of shit. No matter how you, it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't make a difference. What's the solution to these bad games? Simple. Just quit. Just stop. Stop making it. Like, realize that you have made a piece of shit. It's like, all right, I've now made a piece of shit, and now I need to make something that's not a piece of shit. That is the solution, in my opinion. Crazy how No Man's Sky is made with a fraction of the cost, yet it's 100 times better. You guys really need to understand something. The amount of money that a developer spends on a game doesn't matter. They can spend $100 million and you get Diablo 4. Or one guy makes Hollow Cure and it's great. Or Vampire Survivors. The problem is this. Let me make it very simple and very clear. There are a lot of game designers and game developers that shouldn't be game designers or game developers. They have no creative instinct. They have no idea what they're doing. They're bad at their job. And they're completely inadequate in every single way. They don't understand players. They can't design a game. They can't program it properly. They don't understand player behavior. They don't understand why people play video games. They over-monetize the games, which, to be fair, probably, actually, that one isn't really their fault. Probably the accounting department that makes them do that. But again, the entire game revolves around that. These people have no fucking idea what they're doing. And at a certain point, you have to stop blaming the executives. It's not always just the executives that are causing them. Like, there's no executive that made them make the, there's no executive that made them, make the colors in every single boss fight in Diablo the same color. No executive made them do that. They did that themselves. I don't think you understand how games are made besides teams of like 6 people. I don't need to understand how a game is made in order to see that it is very clear that the people that are making the games are fucking morons.